All right, welcome in. Sorry for the delays, guys. Couple of technical glitches. By technical glitches, just means I'm a bit of an idiot and struggled to figure some stuff out, but that's fine. John Zannis, Mike Kadlick, Tayler Kyles is in Cincinnati along with super producer Amit, and they'll be checking in from Cincy. We'll get Taylor's take. We've got Jackson Tolliver holding it down as our producer here in studio, and we're here to talk about a win. Who would have thunk it? I did. I'm not going to lie. I felt okay about it. I'm not super high on the Bengals right now at the moment, what's going on behind the scenes, but I thought the Patriots might win not a slop fest, but a conservative game. And that's what happened. And, you and I were talking offline, Michael, just get your first impressions right out of the gate. This was, this was a Belichickian schemed kind of win. We'll win. The Patriots were always under Belichick. We'll win as long as we do these things. We can
100%.
win this game. And they did it.
We talked about it, myself and Taylor, on Thursday's live Patriots Daily, where we kind of did how the Patriots can win this game, right? Because the idea behind it was any given Sunday, a team can beat another team. And like you mentioned, you have to do X, Y, and Z in order to get it done. And it was basically run the hell out of the football, control the line of scrimmage, stop the Bengals' big three, which they were able to because T. Higgins was obviously out of the game, and then Jamar Chase was limited with the contract stuff. And they got it done, and they played smart football on offense. They didn't turn the ball over. They just pounded the rock with Rhamondre. And for the most part, Jacoby Brissett made the right plays. And I'm sure we'll talk about all of it more in depth, but there was the throw to Hunter Henry that got broken up. That was a lucky one, and that could have changed things because they wouldn't have gotten points down there in the red zone. But it didn't. It wasn't intercepted, and that's what we have to work off of. And so it was a gutsy win. It was a statement win, I think, because nobody picked the Patriots. I think the Bengals were probably in your survivor pools and whatnot, the highest picked team across the league.
And I saw one stat Reese posted. Yeah. 30% of people picked them in the
exactly.
ESPN one. 30% of the people picked the Bengals.
Right.
How many people streamed the Bengals week 1 defense this week?
Bingo. Right. And so
very,
they get it
very
done.
Popular.
And so look, it's at the end of the day, it's impressive. And what it means, I don't really know. There's 16 games left, and the Patriots put their game plan. They put their game plan out there, and they executed it pretty much to perfection, right? Run the football, hold them on defense, don't make mistakes. And that's how the Patriots are going to have to play every single week in order to win these football games. They played perfect on Sunday. Can they play perfect for 16 more weeks? I don't know. But as of right now, gutsy win, solid win, good win for the Patriots, for their fans, and everything around the team.
Yeah. And I think that's it. And I think among the things that we'll talk about here, what's sustainable? What can you build on? What
exactly?
I think you have to look. I think we're going to look at this season through a few different lenses for each game, which is to say, look, there's a lot of things you want to see, and I assume most people are taking the long view. Mm-hmm. So, yes, a win is nice. But you're looking ahead. What here is sustainable? Right. I would say right out of the gate, everyone, myself included, and I'd say most people probably owe Gerard Mayo a massive apology because I think people have been critical for things that may or may not have anything to do with actual coaching, the public handling of a quarterback situation, comments that he said and walked back. I think that's media bullshit. And being a guy who's got a PhD in media bullshit, I can still call it out. Right. We'll talk about it, but I don't know that necessarily matters. Ultimately, what matters is, do you prepare your team to win? Are they ready to play? Today, they were prepared to win and they were ready to play. And if you said, we're going to show you some video that we got after, and you might check it out on Patriots, CLNS Twitter, post a little clip off it. These guys were jacked up. And look, there's a whole faction of people out there, and I'm going to raise my hand as one of them. Look, competitive losses might be better than narrow wins in the long scheme of things for this team, because you're building forward. You don't want to be a 7-8 win team necessarily, but also these guys got to get loser stank out of the loser taste out of their mouths, because they've been having to live with it for a while. And you could tell how much this mattered to a lot of them, watching the reaction of them coming off the field, watching them swarm Mayo and hug him afterwards. That's good vibes. We needed Patriots fans more than anything else. Look, you want your nothing matters if Drake May can't play and if they miss on all their draft picks. But boy, did you need good vibes back, because the vibes have been brutal around this team for a while.
They really have. And that's I think that's the point of this win and why it is so huge and why it is a statement, because you mentioned they got to get that loser stank away from them. And so many times last year, in that final terrible year of Bill Belichick and Mac Jones, they played games sort of like they did today, and sort of because there was offensive mistakes in those ones, and this one there wasn't. But the defense plays hard. They play it tight. It's down to the final possession, into the last 4 minutes, into the last 2 minutes. And so many times last year, the Patriots lost those games. And when it was week 11, 12, 13 last year, and they did lose those games, it was almost okay, because we knew that it was the end of that old era, and there's no tangible.
You were in full-on tank for the quarterback mode last year. So
bingo.
It didn't matter. You ate the bad vibes because the end result was bigger. It's like, got to land one of these three. That was kind of the thought, right?
There was no, like you said, there was no tangible pieces of a rebuild yet, because lame duck head coach, no quarterback in waiting, no head coach. So it's like, let's lose and figure this out. Now they show in week 1 that they're going to, in these close games, they have what it takes to win, and they have the defense that it takes to stand strong and stop them on third down and go out there on offense in a 4-minute drill and hand the ball to Rhamondre and let him run the shit out of it, and he's not going to fumble. Now, he did fumble and recover it, but like the last time against the Bengals, he did fumble and they didn't recover it. And so it's the little things, right? And going back to what I said about week 11, 12, 13 of last year, where they're already 3-6, 3-7, or 2 and whatever they were last year. This week they're 0-0. And so, yes, you want to maybe, like you said, see competitive losses and see them test out the young guys. And maybe even if they don't win the game, at least you see those tangible pieces of the rebuild succeeding. But right now, they're 1-0 now. It's not like there's no reason to be tanking, because you can get in the playoffs and anything can happen. I'm not going to sit here and say they're a playoff team, but you have to act like it this early in the season, when right now you are only 1-0, and that's all you can do. You can control the next week. Right now, you go into week 2 as tied for the best record in the AFC East, and that's all you can really control right now.
Yeah, and that's exactly that. But among the sustainable things you're looking for, and I think the question marks surrounding the team, and we're going to hit all of these in greater detail. And as I said, we'll get some sound in, hearing those guys talk from Cincinnati. Tayler will join as well and give us some of his kind of X and O thoughts on how he thought the game was managed. But things that
thoughts on the Gatorade bath, John, by the way. Let's talk about that, because they gave John Mayo a Gatorade bath. I like it. It's fun.
I don't mind.
Okay, good. Because some people are hardos, and it's like, I saw Andy Hart, my old friend from EEI, say, what is this, a hat and t-shirt game? Like, let him have a little fun. It's game 1. Who cares?
I don't mind. Because I don't mind. Like, it is, the cranks out there, like, yeah, shit. I'm one of them. I made fun of the Colts participation banner,
right.
Sorry, hold on. Was that you or me?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm good now. Are you back? We're good.
So I've made fun of stuff like that before, and I think it is funny. But like, look, it's genuine. It's raw. It's like, as we said, it's good vibes. I think.
Right.
They thought, like, we win this one, we're giving them a bath. I think they were just pumped, because I think they heard the noise. I think they knew Mayo took a lot of shit. I think they liked him. I think everybody, to a man, really, really, really wanted a change. Everyone had respect for Belichick and everything that he had done, but man, did they not want to do this again. Right. And I think they really, really, really want Mayo to succeed. So I don't mind that at all. I'll take genuine kind of positivity anytime you can get it. Yes. Do you open yourself up for potential ridicule? Absolutely. Like the Sixers flying confetti, early on a game when they're down 3-0 in the series or shit like that. Yes, no question about it.
Fun stuff. It's early. It's not like they did it
I like
It's
the
not like
genuine
they
stuff.
started 0-4 and then gave him a Gatorade bath in his first win. Yeah, right.
If this is their only win of the entire year, that Gatorade bath is going to come back to haunt them a little bit, but I don't mind it in the moment, okay? And that's fine. So we talk about the sustainable stuff, the long-term stuff. Does this coaching staff have a clue what they're doing, right? Like Mayo, does he have control, or is he just a rah-rah guy who didn't, wasn't whatever? Well, you know what? Outside of that first procedural penalty on the kickoff, which didn't really bode well to start, everything, it was a relatively clean game. You were so worried about the last preseason game with all of the starts and stops and everything that was going on with the offensive line. And, you didn't see that nearly as much today. So that felt good. DeMarcus Covington, biggest question for me by far. Like, I know what Jacoby Brissett is, and I kind of have an idea what the Patriots' offensive weapons are like. The questions, I think, were going to be, what would this defense was good, but you lost two big-time playmakers, and you also lost maybe the most important aspect of it, which was Bill Belichick, who last year took his ball and went home, didn't spend a second giving a shit about the offense, and just poured everything he had into the defense, and they were excellent. But when you take that experience and that mastermind aspect out of it, how would it be? First year rookie, defensive coordinator. I was curious how that would look. He was phenomenal. I mean, I don't think you could watch this game. Sure, you can absolutely crap all over the Bengals because they did look bad, but I don't think objectively you could watch this game and come away thinking anything other than this Patriots defense is good again.
Oh yeah, they're going to be the reason they stay
legit good,
yes.
And that'll keep them competitive.
Exactly. It's the reason they're going to stay in games just like they did.
It might not keep them competitive for the season, but yeah, they should be able to stay in games, right?
Absolutely. And that's how you hold the Cincinnati Bengals with one of the best quarterbacks in football to 10 points. And it is early in the season. We keep leaving that caveat out there because it's week 1, but the Bengals have also notoriously started slow under Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow. But again, win's a win, and you do it on the backs of that defense. I mean, Kyle Duggar gets mossed by Mike Gesicki in the end zone. He gets lucky that he drops it. And then he comes back the following play and punches the ball out of Tanner Hudson's hands. They turn the ball over and get the ball going the other way. It's like, that's the kind of stuff that you need from these guys. Jonathan Jones makes that outstanding tackle on 4th down, going helmet to helmet with, I forget, one of the other tight ends, one of the 9 freaking tight ends the Bengals play out there. But and makes a stop. He ends the game with like 3 or 4 tackles, I think, and a massive stop. And he was just running around like a baller. And so, look, DeMarcus Covington said they were going to play more aggressive. They were going to, attack the quarterback and switch their coverages in the back end and things like that. And they showed it today. Keon White was also a monster. I think he finished with 2.5 sacks. Like when you lose an interior pass rusher in Christian Barmore and an exterior pass rusher in Matthew Judon, and you can basically give the best of both worlds in Keon White, who does it from the inside and the outside like he did today, 2.5 sacks. Again, he was virtually unstoppable. They were great. I mean, there's no two ways about it. And Covington showed that he can do this and he can call plays early on in his NFL career.
Yeah. And so that's definitely good. In terms of, again, the long-term thing, because that will, as we said, keep it in a game. You look at other things, Christian Gonzalez, some people were kind of, how was his preseason? I don't know. Is he the same guy? What's going on? There were some moments there where people are wondering, look, I mean, most of and again, I know Chase, they didn't go full Chase today, but most of the times he's matched up entirely on him. He was all over it.
He shadowed Chase when he was out there, and he barely did anything.
Barely did a thing. Maybe one play where they were 3rd and short, and I was wondering why he played off him maybe a tad on that one, if you're going to quibble. But the Bengals didn't get crap going downfield all game. I saw one stat where I think they'd had only like 7 throws that like up to a point in the second half or into the third quarter that had even traveled 10 yards down the field. Attempts. Absolutely nothing going on there. So they couldn't get anything going down the field there, whether they were covered or the Patriots were creating enough pressure to mess with Burrow, who right now I'd be a little worried if I was a Cincinnati Bengals fan, but that's about it. I
do wonder how much that offense can open up when T. Higgins returns, right? Because now you got to worry about both of those guys instead of You just worry about Chase, who's getting himself eased in the offense anyway. And then the rest of it is like Andre Yasovis or whatever that guy's name is from Princeton and Jermaine Burton and the rest of those guys. I know, like I mentioned, 3 or 4 tight ends who just aren't that great. And so, look, Burrow didn't have the supporting cast today, but at the same time, he wasn't great. He was flexing his wrist, which is coming back from surgery. So, I mean, worried might be a little strong, but I mean, you're 0-1 for a team that notoriously starts slow against a Patriots team expected to be one of the worst in football. It was we talked about the Survivor Leagues. It's a game that Bengals fans and the Bengals themselves expected to win and probably expected to win pretty handily.
Yeah, they did. Many people did. So those are the things that you have going for you on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, look, the line did not puke all over itself. Was Brissett under some attack? Sure, at times. I think also he's a little slow to process sometimes. Maybe holds the ball a beat longer, missed a person or two that he could have gotten it to. So I don't think he did himself all the favors in the world, but also he proved mobile enough and did get outside the pocket when he needed to, ran for a couple first downs.
Runs.
Yep. And that was huge. So that was like, again, I tweeted this after the first half. I go, that was a professional half of football. They played professional football as was to be expected. Are you getting great separation? No, but it was nice to see Thornton catch a ball or two on an in cut instead of just running downfield and hoping that he runs open. He did run open a couple of times that Brissett did not get the ball to him. I know a lot of people, Evan Lazar being one of them, friend of CLNS Media, who has spent some time logging some plays showing that like Thornton's kind of been open, kind of been open a lot. So I'm not going to crap on the production of those guys. You're going to be limited with that offense there, and we're going to get to it. And yes, I'm going to be shitty about it. And I'm going to ask the question. I'll ask it now, and we'll delve into it later. We're told Drake May can't play because it's the sensible thing to do. Fine. The examples for that, examples against that. A lot of people, he needs to develop. That's great. Did anybody watch Caleb play today? He also needs to develop. Yeah. It's not a death sentence to play when you're not super sure what you're supposed to be doing. But yeah, it can be. But the main reason was, well, the offensive line will get him killed. And this gives them a better chance to win now. I'm not sure either of those things are true. And I'm not sure that if Drake May plays today, that the score is worse or they lose this game. They might potentially have won by more. Or maybe he makes a shit ton of mistakes, turns the ball over, flips the field, and you don't know. I don't actually know. But we are going to get, this will be fine, but you're about to play some really good defenses, and it's going to be really interesting what happens. And I don't know how long people are going to be able to hang on the Jacoby Brissett thing as the sensible option with these types of limitations that you have in the game. Like, a win is nice, but we want shiny, sexy things, right? And you want to see the offense open it up a tad. You're not going to get it here. So game management sort of wins like this you will get, but
you're not going to win in a shootout. You're not going to win in a shootout this way.
This is who he is, and this is what it is, and this is how they're going to play it. So again, we'll see how quickly the conversation comes, but for another week, you're going to be okay. There'll be a lot of people right now saying like, just play him, man. Like if he can live back there, play him.
Yes, but also look, you just won, and you won playing this way. So
it buys you a week.
Yeah, exactly. And I wrote about it in my immediate thoughts that are up now on CLNSmedia.com, where the Patriots now buy themselves one more week. There's those connotations of rebuild and 2025 team and 4-13 and winless season predictions and things like that. Those get put to bed for about 6 more days, right? And then you got to go out and you got to do it again just like this. And if you do it again just like this, I don't know. I mean, of course, you're going to have to turn to Drake May eventually. But if you get to 2-0, they continue to buy themselves time to continue to try and develop Drake May if they're winning football games. And yes, there is also the argument, which we see in the chat here. He could get out there. Yeah, exactly. That
this could be referring to us. Could be referring to just me. Could be referring to other people in the chat.
To the rest of the chat. Yeah, but on one hand, like there's 2 sides to that coin where you put Drake May out there in a game like today, John. You mentioned it perfectly. Jacoby Brissett doesn't turn the ball over. The offense doesn't turn the football over, but they don't score as many points, and so you luckily hold Bengals to 10 points. Go ahead.
Negan might be on our side. These mistakes people are making with the Love did it and Mahomes did it. Yeah, Love sat behind a top 5 quarterback ever,
Right.
and Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith, who was a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback at the time, on a team that was contending at the moment. You weren't tossing a season away. I've said this before. Teams that aren't going anywhere per se usually put the quarterbacks out there to see what they have, because wins don't matter, and let them learn on the fly. I can understand if you truly believe he's going to learn more sitting and watching and getting a sense of in the film room, playing scout team QB. And if those are invaluable reps that he's going to get there, where he is learning and processing, watching game planning for games, how defenses attack quarterbacks, how defenses are going to attack this type of offense that the Patriots have, and that knowledge over however much time you give it to him will make it easier when he does step out there, fine. I think trial by fire is honest. I think if you need, let's just go on a 1 to 10 scale. If there's 10 notches of preparation, yeah, maybe sitting for 4 or 5 weeks studying is one of those 10 notches, but playing is probably the other. Playing is invaluable. So he does have to play, because he's not going to be able to learn it until he gets in there.
Mayo himself has said it. You don't
sat on because the teams were contending, or the quarterback was in front of him was really good, or they really, really didn't get it. And maybe he's in the really doesn't get it bucket right now. So they're still waiting for a little maturity too. But newsflash, you're probably going to suck a little bit. Like Peyton Manning threw 28 interceptions, got sacked 4,500 times, but it didn't matter. You drafted him to be the future. So the future's got to come at some point or another. And he's not going to be ready whenever he gets in there.
And that's the thing too. It's the 3rd overall pick, right? So we can sit here and say that they should, try and sit him and ease him into it and this and that. But if they keep winning, they keep winning, and we say, well, just keep Jacoby in. But at some point, even if they are a good football team, it does have to turn over to the young kid, because it's exactly like we said with the Chiefs and the Packers, where those were good football teams, but they ultimately had to make the decision to turn it over to their young kid, because that was their future that they tapped. Same with the 49ers when they tried it with Trey Lance. Now, it didn't work, but at some point they said, look, we need to put Trey Lance under center, make him our quarterback, and see what we have there. So that's kind of where it sits there. But I think right now, first couple weeks, see how it happens. You buy yourself a little bit more time, and you go into week 2 against Seattle at home. And look, at this point, there's a chance they start the season 2-0, as crazy as it sounds.
There is a chance. There is.
Yeah, which is wild. There's people that predicted this team was going to legitimately go 2 and 15.
Might be my burner. Jesus Christ! These are the points I keep ranting about on Twitter. Yeah, you're right. I do. My
but when you're 1-0,
my nightmare scenario survive. My part of my nightmare scenario with the Patriots in May is, what if you win? What if the players rally around Jacoby's mediocrity, but his leadership qualities? And then you put the rookie in, and you're like, well, he's gonna screw up a lot, and he's gonna probably throw a game or two away.
Right.
Now that you've got this taste of winning, you want to go back? Worst case scenario, they start 3-1 under Jacoby, throwing 142 yards a game, and then you're like, well, shit. I kind of thought week 5 was where I was putting them in, so that could delay things. It delays things. And that's why I wonder, and I'll ask the chat, and I want your thoughts here. What do you want? What do you want to see? Do you want wins? Do you want to see the kids play and develop? Are you okay to wait? I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think everybody wants something different out of this. And some of us are insanely impatient, so you do want to see it. But I still think there's enough takeaways, as we said at the top, which is why I didn't want to start in on the May stuff immediately, to feel good that there's some things going on here that you have to do. To be a winning football team, you don't just need a quarterback and a receiver. It takes a lot more. And this is a team that you were looking at. It's I don't know how much high-end talent there was here. And you look at the defensive side of the ball and be like, wow, a lot of these guys, we saw them last year, but they can play. So that's good stuff. And the offensive line wasn't irretrievably bad. Is it? No, but it wasn't doesn't give you a chance. You snap the ball and somebody's in your face instantly. And Rhamondre's I didn't think they'd be able to run a second. I really didn't. I thought they'd scheme up enough passes to get the ball out quick that Brissett wouldn't get killed. I did not think they'd be able to run. I was actually really impressed by that.
Yeah, they ran the ball well. Jacoby, though, too, got banged up at one point, was wincing, needed help up, and limped to the sideline. And so talking about Drake May and when he's going to get in there, they trust him as the backup quarterback. They trust him enough where Joe Milton wasn't even active for the game. And ultimately, at the end of the day, they have enough trust in Drake May to be at least their backup quarterback right now. And so when does it happen? The wins, they do get in the way, John, but at the same time, if they play well like they did today and Jacoby just plays pedestrian football and they get May to the point behind the scenes where they trust him to not make mistakes, but rather elevate the offense and make more plays. And yeah, there's going to be, when you play that kind of football, that gunslinging football, there's going to be a mistake or two in there, but not backbreaking, right? Like you need to be smart on third down. You need to be smart when you're trying to go, win a football game, or you're in a 4-minute drill and you'd rather throw it away and things like that. Situational football with that's going to be key. So look, the win today is huge and it does maybe push the Drake May thing back, but I do think that's okay too. Long story short, it makes it a little bit tougher, but when you're winning football games, I don't think it's a bad thing that decision becomes harder.
Yeah, it's not. And like I said, everyone will live with this result, but people are going to process things a little bit differently. And that's what it comes down to. We have some locker room sound. We're going to hear from David Andrews here, one of the spiritual leaders of this team and one of the anchors of the offensive line. And as we said, we'll get Tayler Kyles out there in just a little bit. We do want to tell you, and Mike, how'd you do with your picks here? It is PrizePicks season right now. And I'll tell you, some interesting performances in and around the league, but a lot of fun stuff. You can get involved in this action. #1 daily fantasy sports app out there right now. New users, you use that promo code CLNS. Bang. There's some B-roll.
Do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm checking on my slip now. I actually had
$5 play gets you 50 instantly. It's all you have to do. Pick more, pick less. That easy. Pick the stats, pick the players, and just let her rip. Mikey, what did you have?
Yeah, so unfortunately, no dice on this one. I redid it because T. Higgins was out. So we went with Pop. So Pop Douglas we're going to get to on our analysis too, but I had him to have more than 38.5 receiving yards. That didn't happen. He only had 2 catches for 12. I did have Andre Iosovas have less than 44.5 receiving, and that happened. Yeah. But then I also went with Chase Brown because T. Higgins was out, so I figured a couple dump offs to the running backs. He only had 12 receiving yards. His number on PrizePicks was 14.5, so unfortunately it doesn't go my way. So 0-1 so far for the regular season, but we will have another one for Sunday night and Monday Night Football today as well, so we'll see what happens.
Kadlick normally has his shit down, but a lot of pressure on this Pats game because we didn't know how it was going to go. This was a tough one to call because week one is tough, right? Because usage, right? You're curious how it's going to go. Who's going to start in, which receivers play in 11 personnel and 12 personnel and how that's going to look, who's getting the lion's share, whether it's going to be a favorable game script for a pass catching back, a team's going to be playing from behind. And you don't know some of the splits here and you're not really sure how some of that's going to go. So it is always a little bit challenging. And this game I thought was really tough because I didn't know what to expect of the Patriots offense, who their go-tos would be, which receivers are even going to kind of trot out there. You'd got an idea, you did have an idea that it was going to be, Osborne. Yeah, Osborne.
There you go.
Who I have nothing against, but I also don't really need to see much of him. He's fine. But yeah, it is what it is. But for you guys, it's a ton of fun. You can get in there. You still have time. You want to get in on the action. Like I said, Michael put out his 8 o'clock picks here. Play 5, get 50 instantly. Use that code CLNS. PrizePicks. A lot of fun to be had, so check it out if you want. We did mention again, as the Patriots do win their opener here, 1-0. It was pretty jacked. They were jacked and pumped. Here they are coming off the field. Listen to yeah, that's what the F we do. Language, earmuffs,
that's
guys.
Good stuff, Jabril. Elliot Wolf in there too.
Yeah, these guys are coming out. Elliot Wolf hugging people, high-fiving. All of these guys were heavily scrutinized. This is a big double middle finger win here to a lot of people in the media, among fans. A lot of, people out there, really good stuff. They were pumped up coming off the field, and they've been pretty pumped in terms of talking about the game. And yeah, I get it. Like, they were a laughing stock bad last year. I think, and people are calling them the worst roster in the NFL. They're favored in every mock draft for next year. They get the number 1 overall selection, the Vegas odds, the Super Bowl odds, all of those things, absolute bottom of the barrel. So, like, yeah, you hear that. There's no question about it. And
Javon Godshaw in the locker room too says that it was disrespectful to have the Patriots as 8.5-point underdogs going to this one. Now, I get it that you're going to use that as motivation because, it's 2 NFL football teams, but I think that was a fair line, but you're never going to say that as a guy. And they use that stuff, right? That's the motivation. That's the juice they use to keep rolling. I'm looking at some other, locker room and post-game stuff on Twitter right now. Rhamondre Stevenson says he's not tired and that he's got another quarter left in him, which good for him. I think he's going to be banged up tomorrow after going for $120 on 25 carries. But for right now, good stuff. You wonder when and how they manage that workload for him, because they're going to want to win, or they're going to want to play football games like the way they did today because they got the win. And that's the other thing too, John. I actually want to use that in the chat because the Panthers, right? It was the Panthers and the Patriots, 31 and 32, the worst teams in the NFL. And they go into week 1 and the Panthers get their shit pushed in, for a lack of a better term. And they lose 40-3 or 40-10 or whatever they did to the Saints, who also stink. And the Saints put up 47 on their ass, and the Patriots come out with a win. And like, that's the stuff where you use it, like I said, as motivation, and you're counted out, and you have these veterans and this really good defense. And it's like, no, we can win and we can do it on our terms. And that's exactly what they did today. So good for them. But they should be amped up. They should be excited. They should feel disrespected, and they should be ready to, try and roll against the Seahawks next week.
Yeah, they should. Here's David Andrews after the game talking about the win.
Because you don't have that much control as a head coach when you're playing. You can kind of control it. So, but hey, it was a great job by him getting us ready all week. All the coaches had a great plan. Obviously, a lot of familiarity with our offensive coaches and Cincinnati. So I thought we had a good plan, and for the most part, we executed that plan. It wasn't a glaring, issue to me out there. Obviously, there'll be things to clean up and things we can do better, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, this happened, So.
My God, that happened. He got cut off. But yeah, look, that was in praise of Gerard Mayo. And again, the players hear that chatter as well. That he's in over his head. What's he doing? Is he just delegating? Does he have a plan? Is he making sure that they know what they're doing? They look disorganized. They sound and they feel disorganized. This didn't look disorganized to me at all. Like, there was, look, the fundamental issues behind, just talent and where you have it and where you're lacking it. That's there. But in terms of going out and executing, again, what's the last we saw of these guys? And every single Patriots writer and analyst in town was just like, this is a shit show against the Commanders' backups, and to have this many penalties and blah, blah, blah. And what are they doing? And is there time to clean it up? And I don't think there is anymore. And even in training camp with some stuff, people are like, they better get it together quick because they don't look like they have a plan. Look,
credit to them. Like they did it.
They had a plan. Not everything worked the way they wanted. That outside zone running scheme, I'm not really sure what we're going there. I think they maybe got a 5-yard run out of Rhamondre, running that there. I don't know if that's going to get going for them, but they ran hard. They protected Brissett enough. 1 sack, definitely got rushed and hurried a few times. Did take a couple of shots, so it's not a perfect game, but far from the disaster that I think a lot of people were predicting.
Yeah, again, it's credit to them too. Like the disaster that was that Washington game put a lot of doubt in people's heads, and for good reason, right? It's not like, and you mentioned everybody writing about it and saying that is their time. It's not like we, and I say we as the Patriots media cartel, it's not like we made it up, right? Like that happened. That was tangible. They had X amount of penalties and X amount of plays in that first half against Washington, and credit to the Patriots for turning it around. And the same thing with that Eagles practice, that daunted Eagles.
Yeah.
Drake May sacked 7 times in like 13 reps or something like that, and the offensive line just completely apart. Sorry, did you lose me?
No, I got you. I'm putting you full
John,
screen for 1 second. I'm just.
Oh, all right. No, that's fine. It's all good. My Wi-Fi is back and forth, as the lovely Patriots beat and Pat's postgame people know. But look, like I said, it's not like the struggles they've had. It's not like it was made up from our front. They did have a tough practice against the Eagles on that Tuesday joint practice, and they came back. They bounced back. They learned from their mistakes, and they played better in that preseason game. And then the Washington game, they struggle a ton, and they come back and they play well today. And so long as they can learn from this stuff and turn it over and not be error repeaters, right? And that's something Gerard Mayo gets it from the Bill Belichick era, but don't be an error repeater. Make a mistake and learn from it. Don't make the same mistake twice. And so far, in 2 instances where offensive line struggles in joint practice against the Eagles, they come back and play better in the game. Offensive line and the Patriots overall, a ton of penalties against Washington in the first half and the first, that first offense. They turn it around this week and they play better. They line up correctly. Minimal false starts. There was 1 false start, I think, on Vidarian Lowe, which, again, he came in for Chukwuekorafo for and played pretty well. So improving on their mistakes, it happened today, and look for that to continue to happen. They have their ducks in a row, I think, from that angle, which is a good sign for sure. Credit to Gerard Mayo. Credit to Gerard.
Yeah, credit to Gerard. And again, there were some strong individual performances. A lot of people, on the defensive side of the ball, we mentioned Kyle Duggar making a couple of huge plays himself. Jonathan Jones, best tackle of the game, coming up there on that 4th and short, just like a heat-seeking missile to stop that one there. Christian Gonzalez, as we said, shadowing Jamar Chase, who, again, was a little limited, hadn't played, but he's still Jamar friggin' Chase. And that's what you have him there. That's what you have a guy like Christian Gonzalez there for. Solid job. And I think, and then Keon White, probably defensive player of the game, just in terms of the pressure, being in there, the 2.5 sacks, especially in an area where they needed it. And they got it. Here's Keon again. He's spending time not talking about himself, but he's also heaping praise on his head coach.
He's won the championships at every level, really. You kind of just respect that, and he wouldn't have you do anything that he hasn't done or wouldn't do himself. And so he's really like a player's coach. He's relatable. He communicates with all of them, and he makes you want to, like he said in the interview with DG, like you want to run through a brick wall for him. And so and that's something special, I feel like.
That stuff, and again, how much time do we spend at the beginning of the season and in practices listening to them talk about and say those things about Gerard Mayo? And it all felt a little bit like a referendum on Bill Belichick and his style, that it had worn on people. But they're still going out of their way to say it now. So before it was, thank God it's not the other guy. But I'll tell you this, and it's not just football. It's pretty much any line of work, but you've seen it probably happen in a million different places. You can be the rah-rah, clap your hands, great job, everybody guy, but if you don't know what the hell you're doing, everyone's going to figure it out really fast, and they're going to lose faith in you really fast. You can't just tell people nice job and hope that they'll walk away feeling good about themselves because that's what you said, and then not giving them guidance or putting them in a position to succeed. There's nothing worse as an employee anywhere, let alone on the football field, where you can get embarrassed or physically brutalized when you have a person who's not putting you in the best position to succeed. And so that's really what it comes down to. So to keep saying this stuff about Mayo now definitely means that kind of belief level is super high in terms of, and the buy-in is really high from those guys there. I think that's evident. I think you're going to see it in almost every comment that comes out of there.
Yeah. And I think everybody, all the players saying that, we love Gerard and he's our guy. And you see the Gatorade bath that we talked about, and Keon mentioned it, but talking about going on Devon Godshaw's podcast, and they're going to run through a brick wall for that guy. So when Mayo speaks, these guys are going to listen. Right. And so it felt like the the Patriot way, for lack of a better term, that Bill Belichick was preaching here for so long. It just kind of felt like it run its course last year. And, there was mistakes all over special teams, and there was the interception
who's won the championship,
Mac Jones and stuff like that. And it's like, now they listen to Gerard Mayo, and they want to win, and they want to play hard for Gerard Mayo because he's been through it and he understands what they've been through. Like you talk about, Mayo mentioned the two-a-day stuff and how he was able to talk to Bill Belichick, and they would not do two-a-days because Mayo explained that this is what the players want and things like that. And so Mayo gets it from their perspective. So I think they want to play that much harder for him. Now, you mentioned it too. There's rah-rah guys, and there's I think of Brandon Staley from the Chargers, who early on looked pretty good. We're going for it on fourth down. I trust my guys. These are my guys, blah, blah, blah. And it just it runs its course. Jason Garrett, he was Mr. Clap Your Hands, and he gave it his all to make sure that everybody knew that he thought the Dallas Cowboys were the best football team on the field. But at the end of the day, it ran its course there too. And so, look, for now, they're 1-0. They want to play hard for Mayo. They shower him in Gatorade. They love him. They're on the same level as far as respect-wise. But at the end of the day, you need to keep winning football games in order for that to matter, because otherwise, ultimately, at the end of the, if they do start to lose games, it's going to look a whole lot different. It's similar to like Mike McDaniel too, I think, where Mike McDaniel is like a frat boy who calls really awesome offensive plays and has the right guys on the defensive side of the ball to call that. And so they respect him and they understand that to a point in Miami. But if they go to Kansas City for or go to a cold weather playoff game for a third year in a row and lose, when does that run its course, right? And it's the same thing. You have to win football games first, but if you can do both and you can ride that fence like Gerard Mayo is doing right now, then it's good stuff.
Yeah, we'll hear from Mayo in a little bit. The other coaching, thing here was Alex Van Pelt and the Alex Van Pelt offense, and what you would see out of that in this game. And again, working with limited options here. Do you think this is kind of what you expected out of a Van Pelt sort of coached game? Because as Mayo said the whole way through, it's kind of his offense.
Yeah, I did. And I think this was the recipe that they needed to win this game. They run the football hard. Rhamondre Stevenson goes rogue for $120 on 25 carries and a score. They protect the football. They take their shots when they think they can. And there was a couple. There wasn't many, but there were a couple, 10, 15, 20-yard throws from Jacoby to his tight ends. He missed Tyquan Thornton, like you mentioned. He missed Pop Douglas on like a 15-yard out at one point. So those shot plays were there. But this is what I expected from a Van Pelt offense. It's not insanely flashy, but they take their shots when they have to. Now that's a Van Pelt offense with Jacoby Brissett under center. So if and when they do turn it over to Drake May, they're going to change things up a little bit. They'll let him use his legs a little bit more, maybe be quicker reads, and then he can take off. There may be more shot plays because he's, has a stronger arm, can sometimes be not more accurate, but a little bit more consistent than Jacoby Brissett. But no, I didn't expect anything less from this offense. It was predicated on them not making mistakes, and that's what they did. And let's not again, this is a huge win. I'm not going to take anything away from them, but they did only score 16 points. That's not a ton of points. And they played the game the way they had to. At the end of the day, they win it by 6. Hold them to 10, you win a football game. But you're going to need to score more points in the NFL if you want to continue to win football games.
Look, and you're not, and again, we're not talking about the Bengals as a world-beating defense here.
Right.
You're not going to win a lot of games when your quarterback goes for $121 with 0 TDs as well. So
exactly.
That's fine. But as we said, Stevenson, 120 on 25 carries. He was exactly what you expected, and he was somebody who was going to carry the mail. And again, I was not sure they would be able to get it going because most impressive thing about Rhamondre, I'll say this from a physical perspective, I thought he lacked juice last year, and it shows up in a lot of the numbers in terms of broken tackles, making the first guy miss. They knew he was coming, and he was still breaking tackles and making the first guy miss quite a bit today, more so than it felt at times. And I know he got himself going for a stretch last year as well, but he wasn't the beast everyone thought he might be for them last year, not consistently. He was kind of that guy today.
Yeah, he was great. I mean, he was, again, world beater. at some points throughout his career didn't look like it. Today, he showed that he can be. There was a few where he had yards after contact 3, 4, 5 times where he gets hit, he runs through the muck, and he gets a first down or close to it. Now, I mentioned earlier the workload and managing it. Rhamondre has had strong starts in the past, and he has, wilted down the stretch and has gotten injured. Or when he wasn't injured, they had to split the carries a little bit more, and they didn't manage him correctly. So you got to trust for what he says after the game, that he's not tired and that he's not hurt. But that's a big workload, 25 carries, and to go for $120 like that, that's touches, and touches add up over time. So I would like to see them be able to use Antonio Gibson for maybe 10, 11 carries in a game at some point to split it up a little bit, just to take that off him. Because again, if they want to win this way, they're going to need Rhamondre to get 4.8 yards per carry for 17 weeks. And that's really the key there, is, in my opinion, is the yards per carry, not necessarily the yards and the carries themselves. You need to have that consistency. But no, he was great today. He's the reason they won. He's the reason they were able to score 16 points. He's the reason they were able to, keep the possession clock in their favor for 4 quarters. So he was great. And there was a couple quotes, which when Tayler gets on shortly, he can kind of walk us through what the locker room vibe and what the post-game vibe was a little bit more. But they talked about it on the broadcast, and then Mayo talked about it after the game too, where he challenged Rhamondre, and Rhamondre had said he's not much of a vocal leader and doesn't want to, be that kind of guy. And Mayo challenged Rhamondre to not just be a leader on the field, but leader off the field. And he changed his physique, and he was a little bit more trim, and he's now healthy. And it's good stuff for somebody who deservedly got an extension this offseason. And we'll see where it goes from here. But no complaints on Stevenson at all. He was the reason I think they won the game today, at least on offense. The reason they won the game, I shouldn't say that. I want to take that back. The reason they won the game today was because of kick-ass defensive play and plays that, game-changing plays, right?
The special teams too.
The special teams too. The special teams last year for this team was terrible.
Was a joke.
Terrible. And now
that stuff, you make fun of it when it's like, when you spend resources on it and you talk it up like it's as important as other things. But when it's really, really bad, it's noticeable. It was really, really bad.
Right.
Bad last year. So you just expect it to be pretty good to very good when it's, so yes, it is notable considering how bad it was.
Exactly. Again, it was awful. I wrote about it again. That's another thing. That was one of my points on CLNSmedia.com, where the special teams was awful. They were like 29th or 30th at one point in DVOA through 11 or 12 weeks of the season last year. Abysmal. Cam McCord was calling an awful special teams unit all over the place. And today, Brendan Schooler is at the point of attack on just about every punt return, takes Charlie Jones down, barely lets them get anything. Joe Cardona comes in with an A+ form tackle, helmet on the ball,
football,
pops it out.
Joe Cardona, he's not just a snapper, folks.
That's Patriots captain Joe Cardona.
Schooler spent more time in my feed than friggin' his name was in my feed more than Jacoby Brissett's was. He was all over the place. So, it was all good. Tayler Kyles is trying to sneak in. We'll get him in just a second. We get T. Kyles deep dive into what he saw from the game, and then get his vibes from the locker room. Because I know, Taylor's an emotional guy. He's going to be
buying Super Bowl tickets when he comes in here.
He's jacked up. And speaking of which, I'm going to tell you right now, what you should be doing is, maybe this wasn't a hot ticket a couple hours ago, but if you want to get in on the action and get in to see the Patriots play their home opener next week against Seattle, and again, the whole CLNS crew will be down there covering the game. Check it out. Check out the Game Time app. Go in, create an account today. Use that code CLNS, $20 off your first purchase. Every dollar counts here when you're trying to get in to see a big ticket item sort of game. And I'm telling you, it will be when you get closer to kickoff, because I think, there'll be a little bit more buzz off of that.
You had the Game Time, John, right now. Get Game Time app right now. $110.
I'm heading there right now to show you exactly what it is. And I'm looking at it here. We're going to share the screen. Do you see it yet?
I don't, but my computer's also fried.
Hold on. I have it somewhere and I'll put it up. But yes, here it is. I'm adding it. That's what I'm looking at right now. That's some tickets, baby. Still got you there? That's reasonable.
Yeah, it works. Go do it. Game Time app.
There's a lot of
100%.
them, and it's reasonable. And go get it now because that price is going up. And again, download that app today. Use that code CLNS, $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, so make sure to check those out. But again, it's really cool. You want to go in there, you get a view from your seat, which is a really cool option. If you want to wait it out and see what you get, yeah, that's great. Tickets will drop, price drops, you get closer to game time. That's not something you necessarily want to do in Foxboro because getting there is going to be really hard unless you're lingering around the stadium with a phone. But by that point, you've paid to park. So I'm telling you, now's the best time to get in on the action. Check it out. Game Time app, create an account, use that code CLNS, and get in on the action right now. We mentioned we wanted to hear from Gerard Mayo. All the players praised Mayo. Of course, Gerard Mayo is here praising the players for their efforts today.
Guys went out there and competed hard. We talked about establishing the run game and being able to stop their running game, make them one-dimensional. We did a good job with that. I would say we still left a lot of plays out there, but we're going to enjoy this one on the flight home and get ready for next week. But very proud. My message to the players, they gave me the Gatorade shower and things like that. But without them, I'm nothing. So, and I made sure they knew that. Like, they crossed the white lines. I always talk about empowering the players to go out there and play. I always talk about awareness really being the number one thing, and those guys taking ownership. So, all the praise goes to those guys, and they did a great job.
There you have it. We also have this guy, Tayler Kyles.
Hello, fellow winners.
Fresh from the locker room. Slight delay on that audio there. We're dealing with some less than stellar Cincinnati Wi-Fi here, but we're going to live with it. And Tayler, let's get your impressions here, and I'll try not to jump in and cut you off too much because there might be a slight delay here that you're on. Before we get into the game analysis, just give us your kind of take. Amit sent back some video from the tunnel there with these guys are high-fiving and the doubters and this and that and hugging and really pumped up after this game. And it carries over a little bit into the postgame where it's kind of like, yeah, everyone thinks we suck. Everyone but Tayler Kyles thinks we suck. But I mean, that's their kind of general vibe here. So, you were in there, you were talking to the guys. What was the general kind of attitude coming out of there before we get into the X and O stuff and what you saw on the field?
Yeah, I haven't seen a whole lot of winning locker rooms live, and the energy was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, even when they won last year, it seemed more like a sigh of relief. Like, thank God, like we actually made it out of one. We have some positive, momentum finally. But this felt like a team that knew that they were better than what people were assuming they were. And I asked Juwan Bentley about the defense specifically because obviously, the run game was awesome, but the defense did a lot of the heavy lifting in this game. And I was like, yeah, you guys are perennially underrated pretty much. How did it feel? Was this a statement win? And he was like, yeah, no, you guys always give us names like the no-name defense and different like backhanded compliments. Basically, it's just like, oh, these guys are so good, but I have no idea who they are. And he was saying like, no, we're a good defense. We know that we have a good defense. And, you guys may not rate us that way, but we know that we are. And they have been. That was the reason that I said before the game, I thought they had a chance. And it's why I think that they have a chance in almost every game on their schedule, because this isn't just a defense full of talented players. This is a defense full of playmakers, of guys who are disciplined, who are smart. And even in, Bentley mentioned if one guy maybe struggles or isn't having a great day, the other guys have to pick them up. And that's the fact that they have continuity. They know each other so well. They can play off of each other. You see that on the field. There aren't a lot of units that can do that. So huge tip of the cap to the defense making big plays. Special teams as well. I wrote in my preview of the game that the special teams last year at times was working against the team. It wasn't good enough and it wasn't even average. Today, I was saying if they can just be fine, then that will help. If they can make an impact play or two, that could help swing momentum in the Patriots' favor. And we saw that. Brendan Schooler had a freaking amazing day. Bryce Behringer had a really great day. Joey Sly, 3 for 3. We cannot overlook that because how many times did Chad Ryland go 3 for 3 last year? Like, I mean, no offense to the guy, but, these are things that when you have good kickers, they get underrated. But, Joey Sly had a really great performance. And then bringing it back over, obviously, to the offensive side of the ball. The passing game, didn't inspire a whole lot of confidence. There weren't a lot of downfield attempts. There are definitely things. I want to watch the tape and see if guys were open because I thought like Polk actually was in the game over Taekwon on the last third down, which was at X, which was crazy because we've seen in some
and was open.
and was open. And we've seen in some critical situations in camp where they will use Jalen Polk in that way, but really mostly he's just been a Z where he rotates with KJ Osborne. But we actually saw him get that opportunity in a huge moment. So I do want to see more from the passing game and study a little more to see if we should be concerned or not. But that run game, man, Vidarian Lowe, Michael Jordan, two guys that, everyone was either ragging on or no one really thought anything of, guys that I interviewed because I was excited and thought maybe they could contribute. And the film will tell us whether they had, their games were as good as we thought. But that whole offensive line, especially that right side with Nwenu, Layden Robinson, and Andrews in the middle, Caden Wallace as an extra tight end, they were bullying this Bengals run defense. And we knew that it wasn't good going into the game. But towards the end, they literally didn't play with a deep safety. They were playing a goal line defense and still couldn't stop Rhamondre Stevenson.
Yeah.
I don't know if they weren't watching his tape or what happened, but he's a big back with quick feet. And it's maybe one of those things where you can't understand it unless you see it in person, even though they did see him in person 2 years ago. Really weird. But he was just absolutely balling. Like Jacoby Brissett mentioned, he was running away from defensive backs. And we made the argument that Rhamondre can be a top 10 back in the league, but because of offensive line situations, kind of because of the Patriots scheme in some ways, he hasn't really had a chance to really show that. And today you got to see all of it, the quickness, the power, the elusiveness. There were 2-yard runs where the guy's spinning off blockers and like churning ahead for extra yardage. And then obviously the well-rounded skill set. So it was really cool seeing Rhamondre get to show that he's a much better back than he gets credit for. Also a very cool nugget. He told AVP, I know we're an outside zone team, run downhill. I want duo.
Yeah.
And that's where their strength is. We talked about it. They're not
Much
a great
better
fit for outside zone, and they're much better for power, and we saw that.
I'm gonna say something here, and then Mike kind of piggyback off what you said. Taylor, you just got here, so you just unloaded a lot of stuff. But I'll say, I consider you to have, you're a PhD in football knowledge to my kindergarten knowledge here. We talked about some of that stuff. We gave special teams their flowers. We did talk about Rhamondre running downhill. We talked about stacked boxes as well.
We got it covered, Taylor.
They knew it was coming. So when I don't have you here and I say stuff, I'm like, shit, Taylor's going to come in and say like all the stuff that really happened. And no, we were on it. We're on it a little bit. I am going to bat you around a little bit on some other stuff that's more, we're going to get into the quarterback situation here, but I don't think that's the headline today by any means, because you did see a lot of things that were going on here. And Mike and I talked about it a little bit here. Number one, the preparedness of the team to play this game, given all of the crap that we had been given, all of us collectively, or at least maybe if you weren't pessimistic, we were dubious. How is this going to play? I'm not sure. Mayo, yeah, we talk a ton about Drake May, first-year quarterback. There's a lot to learn, big learning curve. You know what? Big friggin' learning curve for a first-time NFL coach who's never even been a coordinator before, and a first-time defensive coordinator who's never done that before. That's something you don't know how to do.
First-time play caller, too. First-time play caller.
That's something you don't know how to do until you do it. And that, to me, was the most impressive takeaway from this game is they appeared ready to play. Where, again, the last we saw them in Washington, I don't think anybody got those vibes. And I think some people were a little unsure about it during training camp as well.
And do you remember last year when Bill O'Brien had those short yardage plays where it felt like he was always trying to get a little bit too ahead of himself, and then there were those catastrophic moments, you get like the fumble and everything, and we're like, dude, just run the play. One of the things that stood out for me with Alex Van Pelt was he stuck. I was like, are they going to try like an end around or something? Because the Bengals clearly know they're going to run, and they don't really care about anything else. AP was like, nope, I don't care. That's a true West Coast coach. He's like, no, we're going to run the ball down your throat. If you can't stop it, we're just going to keep doing it. I thought that was really cool. Gerard Mayo, huge credit. One, they only had 5 penalties, and some of those I honestly am not too mad about. Like Vidarian Lowe gets called for a false start. The guy came off the bench cold on a 3rd down when everyone's screaming. That was a little understandable. There was like the illegal man downfield from David Andrews, a guy where you obviously don't expect it. So, it's one of those you kind of give a pass. But the discipline, we were talking about it. I've asked Mayo about it like 3 different times. You can't have the penalties. You can't beat yourselves. You got to get out of your own way. Those are the things that represent a coach, where obviously coordinators have a big part of that. But having a disciplined team that isn't always going backwards and shooting itself in the foot is huge. We saw so many times last year they were in games and they just have some crazy gaffe, even though they could have put themselves in position to win. I thought for Gerard Mayo as a head coach, and then Jacoby Brissett even saying, like, he told me, hey man, you're going to win us the game. And he said he cried because no coach had ever said that to him before. Like, all the things that Gerard Mayo preaches,
Did
we're
you
now
cry?
Maybe. But all the things they're preaching, like the conditioning, the toughness, like Pepper said that, obviously going back to Bill as well, but nobody practices like the Patriots with the tenacity, the conditioning, all those things that Mayo emphasizes that, you know, when we're all just kind of guessing what's going to happen, then yeah, it's easy for us to be like, oh, he's full of shit. Like, whatever, you can say all those things, but now they're on the field. The players kept saying it. All the work that we're putting in showed today. And those are the kinds of things where, for a head coach, that's what you want to see. And we did. It was really cool, you know, seeing their hard work pay off and see all the crap that this staff has gotten over the offseason. It's still very early, obviously, but, you know, starting on the right foot, that was really cool.
I want to piggyback too, Taylor, there off of the Alex Van Pelt stuff and his confidence as a play caller in his first game calling an offense in what is probably 10 years since the last time he did it when he was in Buffalo, right? Where
he did for that one game when Stefanski was out against the playoffs.
Oh, that's right too. But again, besides that, hasn't really been the man calling the offense. And,
the regular guy, yeah.
And Taylor, I'm gonna shit on you here for not shit on you. That's rude. But me and you made a bet, right, that the Patriots would run 2 or more trick plays, and I said they wouldn't, and Taylor was convinced that they would, and it was. He did the research, and the Browns did it in week 1 last year. They ran a couple trick plays against Cincinnati and got themselves
2022 with Brissett.
Right. And so it was reasonable. I was probably on the wrong side, but they didn't do that. And it was because Van Pelt was confident in their game, and they didn't have to switch it up, and their backs weren't against the wall. So like, it's a good thing in disguise.
It's such a sign of, I know my offense is dog shit when you start rolling out trick plays in week 1. So look, and especially
that's
when
why
they
it's
don't
good.
go well,
like,
and
again,
you're like,
they just
I'm out of tricks. So I'd rather just play it straight and say, all right, we're just going to try to ram it down their throat and be okay.
There was no second guessing. There wasn't any play calls where it was like, what the hell was that? Where and credit to Bill O'Brien, BC's ranked 24 in the country. They're playing awesome right now. But last year, there was some times where whether it was the play call or there was the end result of a play, you're looking at Mac, you're looking at O'Brien. It's like, what the hell was that? And there was none of that today. Now, there was, again, we talk about the offense, and like we said on Thursday night, Taylor, there was a recipe for them to win this game, and it was control the line of scrimmage. It was stop the big 3. It was don't make mistakes on offense. And they did it to a T. Like, they played well enough to win the football game. Now, they only scored 16 points. There was clearly a turnover-worthy play in the end zone from Brissett where he threw it up to Hunter Henry, and he was lucky it wasn't picked off. They end up getting points from it. But, that's the stuff, right? The Rhamondre fumble. So that's the stuff you learn from. But for now, if this is your recipe and this is what you have to do, you got an A week 1. Let's move on to week 2.
It's not gonna. Mike hit on it earlier, Taylor. It's not gonna win you a lot of games this offensively here. And you talk about, like, one person's great play is another person's like, I can't believe we let that happen to us. So, you know, Kyle Duggar, you know, stripping, I forget who it was, about to walk into the end zone. That's a touchdown drive you gave up, and a pretty long one, pretty much. And it happened, and it's great. So when you do it, you're like, what an amazing play. But the reality was, you know, that goes that way. You know, you have that fumble. If that goes the other direction, the throw it up to Henry. There was enough plays here that to have swung the game in a game that was this close where nobody really got things going offensively, and you could have come away from it with a different sort of vibe. So I don't know about the victory lap on terms of like the W. I think the best impact it has is on the people to kind of remove that sucky vibe that they've had going on last year. It has a great impact on that locker room. But looking ahead, you know, Mike and I hit on it. What's sustainable here? Like the defense, absolutely, that's going to keep you in games. The offense, I don't know. I mean, forget don't know. That's not going to do it. You have to find more somewhere. So my question is, where are you going to find more out of this offense, Taylor?
one thing I think is important to remember, and the ball did bounce their way several times. Like, that was not lost on me. They definitely were fortunate. But that's what September is. Like Gerard Mayo said, we want to get better every week and play our best football in December. A lot of teams are scrambling just to try to get wins in September. And then sometimes, the ball goes your way or it doesn't. But if it doesn't,
those are teams that are trying to get to the playoffs. I don't think that's a realistic target.
Of course. But
anything can happen. But yeah.
Of course. But, everybody has a lot of things to work on in September. And this team, more than most, of course. But they said they want to be a team that runs the ball. They're going to be a team that wins with defense. Like, this right now is an offense that's going to drag you into the mud and be like, all right, we're just going to be throwing rocks at each other. And whoever, gives up first is going to lose the game. And I think that's what the offensive identity is. Again, like I said earlier, you want to see more from the passing game. I had a lot of anxiety anytime it was an obvious passing situation because you got freaking Trey Hendricks, racing off the edge and Jacoby Brissett just barely hanging on within an inch of his life. But the run game, it wasn't a fluke. You have Rhamondre Stevenson, who's one of the best backs in the NFL. You have Layden Robinson and Mike Nwenu. That combo was one that I was really excited to see. And
physical.
He showed exactly why. David Andrews, one of the best run blocking centers in football. I don't know how well exactly Michael Jordan and Badarian Lowe played, from a snap-to-snap basis, but how many times did we hear their names? I heard Lowe's name once or twice, never heard Michael Jordan's name. That's huge for the offensive line. That's pretty much your job. It's like a cornerback. Like Christian Gonzalez, too. He had one little infraction that was kind of ticky-tack, but it's like, if I don't hear your name, I'm assuming you did pretty darn well. So I think that is what their identity is. They need to get better in terms of their passing attack. There were times that guys ran into each other. Polk and Pop ran into each other on a third down in the red zone, and then Hunter Henry was well covered. Like, there's plenty to work on. But September for a lot of teams is about survival. It's not about being the best team in the NFL. And the fact that this team that everyone was saying is the worst in football, they're going to finish with a top 5 pick, was able to go against a very experienced team that's been together for a long time, obviously with Jamar Chase maybe limited in what he could do because he hasn't been in practice and no T. Higgins. That's not lost on me. But the game plan was still going to be the same. Like, forced to Bird at dink and dunk. The only play that he had really downfield that you go like, defense, yikes, was when Jawan Bentley was running the pole and cover 2. I think he saw someone coming underneath him and thought the ball was coming out and stopped, and then Jamar Chase goes right behind him. Like, again, both sides of the ball, plenty of things to fix, but they were able to hang on and survive and show they're a tough team, that you're not just going to walk into their stadium and think you own the place. So
no doubt.
I thought that was pretty awesome.
But again, the question was about offense. Like, where are you going to find more of it here? And so that's kind of my thought is you're going to need to generate a little bit more. And while it wasn't a train wreck, you're not, the offensive line, I thought, acquitted itself well, considering relative to expectations, certainly relative to expectations, but even not, they were fine. But Jacoby's Jacoby, and the skill guys are the skill guys, and that's kind of what you got. So the question is it going to be a thing where you're going to take time, play it slow to start, and open it up, which is what you would do with a rookie, not with a veteran per se? Or is this the ceiling for a Jacoby Brissett-led team? And if this is the ceiling, Taylor, at what point does the conversation change? Because here's where I'm going to go is I believe the goalposts have moved a great deal on why Drake May shouldn't play. I know the adults in the room have a bunch of good reasons for why, and I'm not going to dispute them. I think there's a case to be made for and against that's sensible. Okay. Sensible. Let him learn. Give it time. What are you in a hurry for? The offensive line. Let the coaching staff get all of its legs under, but I'd say the two that people keep coming back to the most is the O-line will get him killed, and he's just too inexperienced right now, and Brissett gives you a better chance to win. What if that stops being the case? What if it's not the case now? What if, I could question whether or not Drake May, for all his inexperience, if the result is different or worse if he's in the game today. And if you're going to keep getting 120-yard outputs out of Brissett, you might say, we might have to reach for ceiling rather than floor, because the floor offensively is not going to keep us in enough games.
I think it's that this is a rookie offense, not just a quarter. Like, it's not all about Jacoby. It is the offense. Like I said, there were receivers running into each other. It's not like Jacoby Brissett was the one dragging everybody down. If anything,
and that's the play too where Jacoby got spanked and he ended up getting hurt.
Yeah, and he got up clobbered. Exactly.
Yeah, you want to put Drake May in the game. You want to see how he responds. And we will never know how Drake May would have played if he was in. But Jacoby showed toughness. The guy took a lot of big hits and stayed in, and it really didn't seem to affect his play. And also, you have to talk about the composure.
You know what Drake May does?
He runs
away from that. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but it's one of those things where like it's so unfair to say necessarily who would have done what, because again, I think it was really the entire offense in terms of the passing game didn't look very great. So I don't really know that Drake would have made it that much better. But Jacoby also made some great decisions. He ran the ball when he needed to. He did a great job avoiding sacks with Trey Hendrickson. Like when Chooks was struggling early on, the only reason Jacoby didn't take like 2 or 3 sacks was because he got the ball out on time, which you can't always expect that a rookie's necessarily going to do. So of course, Jacoby needs to be better. And I still don't think that they want him to be the guy who has the ball in his hands in important situations. I think you want that to be Rhamondre, who you're paying to be that kind of person. That's why he's making the big bucks. But I think the offense, the passing game as an entire group does have some ways to go. I think the receivers need to be more consistent. I think the pass protection can also be better. Of course, we always talk about that.
But it might not be
a run-heavy game. I hesitate to really be like, oh, Jacoby, you know.
I agree. The way I flip the conversation is less that the offense is still needs to develop or mature. It's that given the talent, it can't. So it might take a different quarterback to elevate it rather than waiting for things to happen that I don't know that are going to happen. I don't think the receivers are all of a sudden going to start running 4 threes and separating. I don't, you know, and
Pop and Polk were separating. Like we saw it.
And even Thornton at times. Or that, you know, all of a sudden the offensive line is going to just basically hold a clean pocket. You may need a little bit of wizardry going on here. So you do wonder at a certain point when, as I said, when you, no rookie quarterback's ever going to be ready. You do wonder when they look at it and start to reach for ceiling rather than floor. That's all I'm saying.
And the other thing too, it's tough after a game like today to kind of have the argument, because on one hand, May could have gone out there and he could have shined and he
took the whole way.
Well, hold on though. He could have, but right, that's the other side. He could have scored more than 16 points and looked great and been like, he should be our starting quarterback, and turned it into a 2 or 3 possession game. Or on the flip side, instead of milking that 4-minute offense down the stretch and being able to, hit a couple throws and obviously hand the ball off to Rhamondre, but he could have thrown an interception early on, or he could have tried to force something that wasn't, and then they lose instead of win an easy 2-possession game. So the smart, methodical, slow offense that Brissett ran today, it's hard to, I guess, critique it in a win. And you just kind of got to wait and see. But I can see there's obviously the volatile ceiling and floor with May versus the steady hand in a 16-10 win.
Beyond that, what I mentioned earlier, Taylor, is this. I don't know we talked about the importance of the win for the win on the personnel back there who had been so used to losing and losing ugly that you could see how much this meant to them. And I think that that's important to get that loser stank off you a little bit. But as a Patriots fan, I am curious what it is you're looking for. Would you rather have watched a kind of, offensive rock fight that you win a game here when, wins and losses this year aren't necessarily as important as they will be in year 2 or 3 of this rebuild? Or would you rather have watched Drake May go out there, look a little bit confused at times, make 2 to 3 highlight worthy plays and be like, yep, that's the guy, and come away with a loss, but come away with a couple of things that like, oh, geez, that kid's going to be able to play, and then give him the reps necessary that he's going to need eventually to be able to come in and actually play this game, which is challenging for anybody, let alone a guy who's had as little experience as he's had.
I'll tell you, I'll take an ugly win, man, because in those, like, obviously we don't like them, but those are great barometers for how tough your team is. Like Matthew Slater's mentioned it in the past, but like when you have to go wire to wire and there is no clear winner, and obviously even this game, they really were in the driver's seat for most of it. There were just times that the Bengals kind of started to roar back, but knowing that, like, yes, when it's hard, we get better and we are able to beat teams even when they know exactly what we're doing. I think that does a lot for a football team in terms of their identity and knowing what kind of character and grit they have and what kind of teammates they have around them and who they can rely on in big moments. Now, all that said, I've been adamant that I think Drake May's probably going to play in October because I think Jacoby does deserve a trial run. I think that, they were clearly working things out in the summer, and I understand Mayo. He clarified it when he said that Drake was better. He meant in the last couple of weeks. I would argue it was a little bit earlier than that, but also there were so many times today where you saw, right, that's why Jacoby's in the game. Because, yeah, there were plays that he had that were bad, but Drake May had plenty of bad plays this preseason too.
And he might have made a ton of them today too. I agree with that.
Exactly. So I'm okay with giving Jacoby Brissett his trial run. Be like, hey, can you run this offense? Can you be the guy to help get us over the edge? Maybe you're not lighting it up the way we hope Drake May will, but are you, keeping us in the game and not being the reason that we lose it? I think that's the expectation for Jacoby. If it gets to the point where that's not enough and they start losing games and you're like, yeah, we need a spark. Yeah, for sure. Throw May in there. But for week 1, I'm completely okay with it having been Jacoby Brissett, a guy who's seen this defense before, clearly had a level of poise and understanding and confidence in himself that you can't always assume that a guy like Drake May is going to have when he's never gone through an NFL game week before. You're in dude, did you see the pictures from this game, or did you the broadcast when they showed? I didn't see any. I think I saw 3 Patriots fans. I'm not exaggerating. I think I saw 3. It was all, you talk about a hostile environment. Like, it was really tough. So yeah, I'm not exactly, I wouldn't have been thrilled that Drake May necessarily had to start in that kind of situation.
I think it's too early in the year to want to see close losses with tangible pieces of the rebuild, because again, they're 1-0 and it's a week by week league. And look, I'm not going to sit here and predict that they're going to go on an 8-0 stretch, right? I probably would have predicted 0-8 before 8-0, but like right now you're 1-0. So there's no reason, in my opinion, to say, yeah, but what if they lost, but Drake May looked pretty good. Like, I get the sentiment, but at the end of the day, right now, with the guys on the team, call it Jabril Peppers and Godchaw and Tavai and the veterans like Hunter Henry, they want to win, and they want to win right now. Those guys don't want to rebuild. They don't want to think to 2025 on September 8th. I do. Fans do. Some fans do, but ultimately too, like, you won a football game, you're 1-0, and you're coming home 1-0 for Gerard Mayo's home debut against the Seattle Seahawks team, who right now is, I think, tied like 6-6 and not playing that great. You could start 2-0.
Oh my God.
I heard Felger 10-9. They're down 10-9 to the Broncos right now. So like, that's another winnable game. I heard Felger this week saying, what if this team starts 2-0? And Maz was saying, you're crazy. Bah, 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 bah. But like, they could be 2-0. They could be 2-0 in 7 days. And that's pretty crazy to see. So I just think, win one. Once you start losing, or once you start losing close even, then we got to have the other conversations. And May's going to play at some point, Taylor, you're right. And they're going to see at some point the ceiling is there. The ceiling's going to help us more than the floor is going to hurt us. Until then, Pats are 1-0. That was pretty fun.
Yeah. So that's it. That's the result. I fall on the other side of it. I want to see the development, because I think that's what you're here for. I want to see the rookies play. I understand Javon Baker has issues with, consistency, but also just general knuckleheadedness that might have been contributed in him being not playing today. But this is a guy, Taylor, you were very excited when they drafted. I want to see the kid out there. I want to see Polk playing in 3 receiver sets. I don't like that he's not playing, because these are the shiny toys and you're leaving them in the garage. So yeah, I'm impatient. I'm that guy. And also, I want to see them start getting good now. If you give me a guarantee that, oh yeah, they sit a year and next year they'll be friggin' awesome, great. I don't think that works that way. I think you need to get him out there and you can start getting him some game reps as soon as you see it. And I would always opt for, Osborne's a little bit better and a little bit more ready right now, but this guy's got to get there, and I got to get him there now, because I spent premium draft capital on him, and it's called draft and develop. And sure, sometimes waiting for people to be a little bit more ready, that's how it works. So we will have to have some patience, but I don't have patience, so I want to see it now. And that's
How would you have felt if it was Drake May who had to peel himself off the turf like 3 or 4 times?
That's football, man. That's how it works. You get hit. You take hits.
It's fair.
Guys get hit all the time.
You're right.
He's
You're
not
right,
made,
but
he's not a Fabergé egg. He's a friggin' 6'4", 230-pound guy. He's a football player.
But he's also somebody who ideally is going to be your quarterback for like a decade, maybe 2 decades in this one game.
What happens when he gets hit in week 5 really hard? It's the same. So yes, I do want to see it sooner than later, because one, you want to see what you have in them, but you're right. The sensible thing, and you're not going to rush it after a win and this and that. So be it. So I get it there. It's going to have to wait a little bit. I do think the excitement around this season is in the new quarterback and having spent some draft capital on receivers. So don't lie to me at home and tell me you don't want to see it. You do want to see it.
Of course.
I understand the argument that sometimes, you have to wait for some of these things. And that's
right now it turns into best of both worlds, where they win today. Now it's like, oh, they have a chance. Let's win. But also let's have the rookies come in and play well enough to win. And not come in and lose close and, we see this, but now the reason we didn't win week 2, 3, 4 is because we turned it over to the rookies too soon. So there's a happy medium that, of course, you're never going to get. That's football and that's life. But again, for now, it's a win. But I agree. You do want to see these guys hit the field eventually.
It's going to be bad when there's only one, like there's a CJ Stroud and then there's everybody else who struggles like crazy when they first get in there and they get hit and they throw picks and everything is bad.
Even CJ Stroud wasn't perfect. Like we hype him up and like he deserves it, but also like the mistakes that he made, no one acknowledges. It's like, no, he very much was a rookie quarterback.
But you live with it. That's the point. Yeah. It's part of it's how it works. The rookies tend to go to bad teams. Those teams tend to have a difficult time supporting those people. Those people struggle in the early going. And that's just how the game is played. So eventually you're going to have to get there sooner than later. And that's, as I said, is the wins make it harder to get there. If you want to get to May by October, 2-0 and the team's starting to win and starting to gel around Brissett and his leadership, even if it's unspectacular, is going to be a challenge here. So, the conversation for a week gets put on hold, but you go out and throw for 120 yards in a 30-13 loss in week 2. And the sirens start blaring here. So again, the defense is going to keep things interesting for this team. I am curious how they're going to find a little bit more juice on offense, particularly against some of these defenses they're going to face sooner than later, where you've got the Niners and you've got the Jets coming down the pike and a little bit later. But 1-0, can't argue with it. Good vibes, good feeling. And if you're a Patriots fan, you feel a little better today than you felt 4 or 5 hours ago, which is definitely a good thing. If you want more analysis, more insight, Mike Kadlick already has a post-game recap up on the site, but these guys are going to be hard at work putting out more content. Taylor's going to do deep dives, looking into some of the film and see what he saw. I bet you we're going to see some stuff from the receivers, Taylor, is my feeling. We're going to see guys who are open more, which is going to make you feel a little better about the receivers, a little worse about Brissett. Or the line that might not have protected him long enough to get the ball to those guys. That's my general vibe, that I think you're going to see some stuff there and be like, oh, there were some opportunities they could have taken there, and maybe it was conservative by nature. But again, Taylor will dig in. You'll see that. We'll have more coverage. There's more Patriots stuff coming on the channel too, so subscribe if you haven't already. Patriots Press Pass on CLNS. We got the Pats Nation guys coming up with their post-game show at halftime of the Sunday Night Football game, and we're going to be flooding you with more stuff throughout the game, including Taylor with some more content from down in Cincinnati. And maybe you find Trag, see if he's doing okay. I hope he's not too upset.
I don't know where he is. I was hoping to actually meet him.
The answer is he's everywhere.
We've been in like an area together, and I swear the man is a vapor.
Trags is both everywhere and nowhere. He's
Schrodinger's cat.
Yeah. So check, but again, like we said, thank you guys for hanging out. We do appreciate it. It's a fun crowd, a good chat, and a good win for the Patriots. As always, if you want to sign up, there's still time today. You want to get in, check out Mike Kadlick's Sunday night picks. He'll have those up there. PrizePicks, #1 daily fantasy app. Get in on the action right now. Sign up today. Play a $5 and you get 50 instantly. Pick more or less on 2 to 6 of your favorite players and watch the winnings roll in. Check that out. And as we said, and I'll say it again, Pat's ticket's going to get hotter as you get closer to game time. Typically on game time, you like to wait because the price goes down. I don't know what's going to happen here. People might start thinking, I don't want to go check this team out. This might be worth it. 2-0. I like the sound of that. Check out the Game Time app. Download it today. Code CLNS, $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Once again, super important to us that you use these promo codes. That's how the sponsors know that we sent you. That's how we get to keep putting out this free content for you. So we like to keep our sponsors happy whenever we can. But this is a really valuable app and a really, really good one if you are trying to get into a game and tickets are hard to find, a game or a concert. Download Game Time, $20 off first for your first purchase. Terms again do apply. Patriots win 16-10. They start the season 1-0 with a chance to go 2-0 against the Seahawks next week. For Mike Kadlick, Tayler Kyles, I am John Zannis. We will see you next week, but you'll see these guys
we'll be back
throughout the week on a zillion of their podcasts. Pat's Daily, Patriots Beat, Bedard, Callahan. You'll get all of it tomorrow, so make sure you check all that out for a deeper dive into what happened today. Take care, everyone.
John, you got to do the sign-off.
What's that?
That's Pat's Daily only, I think.
Oh, yeah.
What do you got? Why you guys do it? It's your show. I'm a guest here.
Taylor, have it.
All right. Well, after opening day win, everybody, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. We will see you next time. Peace, y'all.
Later.